Our next guest pulled an all-nighter for the event. Timothy Stevens writes for Engadget. His toy reviews are considered must-read. Thumb up or thumb down, Mr. Stevens?
Somewhere in the middle, actually. The hardware design is a little bit disappointing, and it actually looks almost exactly like the Galaxy S3, which a lot of people have criticized for being a little bit plasticky, a little bit cheap feeling. But really, Samsung was all talking about features last night, talking about software, talking about some of the gestures like you mentioned. You can, for example, scroll a web browser just by tilting the phone as you read it, so you don't need to use your second hand. It'll actually pause the video if you look away from the screen, which is kind of cool. You can do a lot of stuff while you're driving your car. The phone can talk to you, it'll read emails to you, and you can actually read emails back to it, which it'll transcribe.
How does Apple respond?
I think Apple at this point really needs to raise the bar in terms of features. We're expecting an iPhone 5S or something like that, kind of a small step for the next generation of the iPhone. But we're expecting to see Siri get a lot more smart in this next generation of iOS, and we should see a lot more software features coming out of the next version of iOS 2.
Is there enough of a wow factor here in this new Samsung release that says Tom has to go switch from the iPhone?
I don't think so at this point. A lot of the features that they showed off were really cool, but it's a lot of really small things that really are kind of hard to sell as one big cohesive package. And the event last night really showed that. It was a lot of little demonstrations that kind of felt stuck together, and it would kind of rambled on a little bit.
Let's go to that Scoble. Robert Scoble, folks, is a guy out on Twitter that's legendary. He's a great guy, fun guy. He wrote this up last night. I was taken aback, along with a lot of the other comments. Samsung really screwed up with its Galaxy S4 presentation. Whoever planned it should be fired. The presentation was extremely sexist and tone deaf. Wow, you were there. How bizarre was it?
It was very bizarre. It was at the Radio City Music Hall, so they kind of took inspiration by that, and they tried to do little plays to show off these features like the camera and the driving stuff, and it ultimately just kind of fell on deaf ears for sure. It really felt like amateur hour play stuff up there, which is a little bit weird. It was kind of funny, kind of goofy.
Right.
I don't know.
Scarlett Fu mentioned earlier Microsoft struggling with the Surface and all. How does Microsoft react to Apple, to Samsung? Are they even in the discussion?
They are definitely in the discussion for sure. They're a strong third player at this point, by the numbers anyway. So Microsoft really needs to step up on the software front as well. So adding some gestures to their phones and adding things like that as well.
I just want to point out that it looks like investors agree with you, Tim Stevens, because Apple shares are higher in the pre-market right now. Samsung shares dropped 2.6% in Korean trading right now. So perhaps an early gut reaction.
A core item that we've seen through all of our reporting on is Corey Johnson of Bloomberg West. See it tonight, folks, 6 p.m. on Bloomberg Television. Looking forward to that. And for those of you on radio, what Corey said I thought was profound. Do you make money with a cheaper phone with a significantly lower margin, or does Apple still have to take the high road and make that high margin glory with fewer sales?
Well, Apple's got the power of both. I mean, they've got high margin hardware, and they're outselling everybody else at this point. They're selling basically, 2 iPhones for every Galaxy S3 that Samsung's been selling, if not more. So they've got, the power of both, which is one of the reasons why Apple's been so successful of late. But really what Samsung's trying to do is focus on software, which is, much less expensive than hardware for sure, so they can drive at the margins in that way. If they can make this a value proposition with features versus hardware, then they do stand to make money.